Good morning. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful rainy day. But as they say, it can't rain all the time. At least that's a great movie quote from one of the greatest movies ever, possibly from one of the greatest Christian movies ever as well. And that's what I'm here to discuss today. Something I've been thinking about for a long time, actually, talking about the movie The Crow, the original. There's only one. There can only be one, and I'm going to stick to that. And I believe that there has always been one, and there will only be one. So, with that in mind, I'll read a little bit about this. Some of those reasons today. Probably won't make it too long here. This is a book that I'm currently reading right now. It's called The Crow. Oh, I need to flip that around, huh? Well, it's called The Crow: The Life, Death, and Rebirth of a Classic Film. And it is absolutely true. That is exactly what this is. The life, death, and rebirth of a classic film. One of the great classics. Classic. Hard to believe it's a classic. I was a teenager when this movie came out, and a huge Brandon Lee fan, huge Bruce Lee fan too. So it was very surprising to me what happened with Brandon Lee. Very shocking. This book, this is a journalist book. This book really covers everything that I want to know as a researcher. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It is so amazing. I'm only about 60 pages in right now. This is about 300 pages. This is called The Crow: The Life, Death, and Rebirth of a Classic Film. This is by Bridget Bass, Baiss. Definitely recommend getting this book. It's part of a documentary on the filmmaking. It's a part of biography on Brandon Lee, even on Bruce Lee too. It covers a lot of Bruce Lee. The research that went into this book and the way it's written from a journalist point of view is fascinating to me. So I hope that you will check that out and enjoy it as much as I have. Got a few other books back here. The movie, the Brandon Lee, the Crow movie there that talks about some of the more fascinating stuff that happened in this movie. But I figured I'd just turn this on here. I've been kind of twiddling my thumbs, or maybe possibly working on a book about why I think The Crow is a great Christian movie. Maybe one of the greatest Christian movies. Maybe why it is a Christian movie. But to go there, I think first we need to discuss a few things. And one of those things would obviously be, why it may not be a great Christian movie. So let me see if I can do a little share screen here and get rocking and rolling. I couldn't figure out how to just share Adobe. So thankfully I have two screens that I can then just adjust that with. So maybe one day I'll figure that out. But until then, let's run through this a little bit. All right. So this is where we're going to start here. First, we should talk about why The Crow isn't a great Christian movie. At first glance, it may seem like the movie is focused on crime, drugs, blood, death, murder, curse words, debauchery, selfishness, hatred, and senseless violence. The city looks empty from the Crow's point of view. Its inhabitants are living in fear. And I think I need to mention here The Crow. This is kind of where I got a little confused, a little back and forth. Like The Crow, okay, we got the main character, Eric Draven, who is the Crow, but then you have the bird in the movie that is a crow. It's actually a crow played by a raven, which was, that just really messed me up when I learned that. When I learned that the crows that they use in the movie are not actually crows, they're actually ravens. Man, that messed me up. That really just I was like, what? How the more that I learn about this movie, the less that I know. And that's cool. I absolutely love that, because again, I went and saw this when it came out in theaters back in 1994, and got some interesting non-Christian stories about my experiences there too. But I was pretty fascinated. It was fascinating to learn. And then I was like, okay, why would they use a raven instead of a crow, and the author explains it very, very well. That based on the people who were working on the film, it's a lot easier to train. It's a lot easier to train a raven, and they had a couple ravens that were trained. So it's also, when you go back and watch the movie The Crow, go back and watch and see if you can spot where they use a real bird or a mechanical bird. Can you spot the difference? Because I sure couldn't. Now, I've been going through the movie for years trying to spot the difference between Brandon Lee and his stunt double. Come to find out, a lot of the things about his stunt double worked on the John Wick movies. He worked on a lot of other movies later on too. I had no idea. So this Brandon Lee's stunt double, there are a very few scenes from what I was listening to last night. Very few scenes that actually Brandon Lee was not in. I was fascinated to learn that, because I had always thought that most of the movie isn't Brandon Lee, and then come to find out actually most of the movie is Brandon Lee, and 90% of the movie was already done. This thing was already finished, and they only had the scenes where Brandon Lee didn't have the face paint. All of those scenes with the face paint were pretty much done. And so I was very happy to learn that this is a lot closer to the final product than I had really thought. So that changed my mind on a lot of the views that I had. I guess it kind of felt like, some of it felt like, was this like a half-made film, a half-made movie? But no, this is really mostly the vision of the movie, and what we see in the final film is actually a lot of what was in the screenplay. And we know when it goes through the screenplay and goes through production, and then they start making changes. There were a lot of changes made. There were some character changes made, but a lot of what is in the screenplay that you can read, you can find it. Just look up the Crow screenplay. You'll find it out there. I found it. I downloaded it. That's what I'm going to read next, because there's a villain. There's a mystical villain that is chasing the crow, trying to get the crow's powers. And Brandon Lee asked that character be cut out of the film. So when that character got cut out, Top Dollar, the main villain in this film, was elevated, and his half sister took on some of the mystical stuff from this villain that was cut out of this movie. Now, from a martial arts point, it probably would have been some awesome fighting, probably would have been some great stuff. But from a movie making standpoint and looking at the final product, it makes me appreciate this movie so much more, even more than I already did, the more that I learn about it. And like I said, the more that I learn about the movie, the more that I realize how little I actually know about this movie. I wish I had a Crow shirt here to do this show on, and hopefully in the future I will get one. But let's go and let me stop yammering a little bit, and let's read on a little bit about, and maybe it's not clear. I think when I gave this to Crip Rick, it wasn't really clear that the idea here first is to show all the reasons why it's not a good Christian movie. And I think I failed at that. So I may even take that first line out. I may even just that first line may not even be needed, because everything that comes after it, does it really stress the point that I'm trying to make? And is it even necessary, or can I just cut that out? So thanks, Rick, for taking a look at this. I definitely appreciate that. So its inhabitants are living in fear. Neighborhoods have so long been terrorized by local criminals that good citizens are living in hiding, scared to leave their homes unless it is absolutely necessary to do so. Even the police officers dress in black, and very few of them are seen in the movie. That's no accident. The police are outnumbered, outgunned, and unmotivated to fight back against the evil they face, except for the one officer that we know, right? We know there's the one officer who is definitely not afraid to fight back, which is great, which is what this story needs. All right. Knowing what happens to an innocent man and woman in the beginning of the film sets the tone for things to come. How the police react to this horrendous crime of a man and a woman brutally beaten and murdered lets you know this is just another day at work for them. Just another day at the office for the officers, right? That's what I really wanted to say, but it just office and then officers in the same sentence, kind of weird. They are living in a city damned for turning away from God. That's what I believe. I think there's some reasons to that. But all that is about to change. Our main protagonist, antagonist, what it should be. Our main antagonist, the protagonist is the good guy. The antagonist is a bad guy. So I definitely got that. I need to go back and adjust that. Our main antagonist, Top Dollar, believes that every man has a devil and you can't rest until you find him. The devil may seem to dominate this movie in the beginning, but by the end, you will see the main characters reunited, making their way to heaven, overcoming and defeating, where are we at? Overcoming and defeating the devil's minions. We have a happy ending. Let me move my little guy out of the way. We have a happy ending. Well, as happy as it can be under the circumstances. We see similar endings in various chapters of the Bible. Out of ashes of fire and death, God's followers always prevail. Their journey towards redemption doesn't erase all the evil things that happen in their life, but in the end, they find their purpose in something greater than themselves. We see this in the Bible a lot. You look at the Bible and you can clearly see, and you're thinking, oh man, this is horrible. Like, look at all these horrible things that happen. And then there is a happy ending. And the point I was trying to make is it doesn't erase all the bad things that have happened. It doesn't take those away. All it does is bring some redemption, some closure to that, where we finally move beyond that. And if you stay trapped in your own misery and you just dwell in the past and live in the past and think, I've always been bad, I can never change, the world has always been like this, it's never going to change, it's always going to be bad. If you live in that world, you will never expect change. You will never be happy. And you'll just be a very miserable person. And then one day you'll die and that'll be about it. But let's not do that. Let's stay positive here. Let's be positive people so that we can live in a mostly positive world, or at least try to do the best that we can to make this world as positive as it can be. Back to the story. Okay. This is not a movie where the protagonist, now at least I got that right, where the protagonist makes a deal with the devil. This is not Spawn. Instead, this movie can be seen as a tear from God touching down to the earth, using the crow, the bird, to make the wrong things right. This is a great movie concept. In the really real world, Jesus Christ has already set the wrong things right for all times. God is always present in our brightest moments and in our darkest times. You will find God everywhere in this movie if you're paying attention. Don't be like Mr. Gideon. Mr. Gideon, you're not paying attention. The movie is more focused on death than life. Whatever your view is on this movie, we should all agree this is not a movie children should watch. The main character is not someone children should look up to. This is not a movie any responsible adult parent would show their underage child. This is an adult Christian movie, and a great Christian movie overall. In fact, in my opinion, this is one of the greatest Christian movies ever made. One of the first scenes of the film begins with the crow leading us to a church, a cathedral, where Eric Draven and Shelley Webster were buried. It's a cemetery, yes, but it's also on the church property. The final battle scene is also at the church. It starts outside the church with the kidnapping of a young girl named Sarah. You may remember a little girl named Sarah from the Bible as well. Then we move inside the church for the big confrontation and the injury of the crow, the bird. Finally, the climax is on top of the church where the antagonist and protagonist fight alone. Remember when the devil tempted Jesus and took him to a high mountain and told him all the world would be his if he would just bow down to the devil? This is the highest point in the film, with our protagonist at his lowest point, reduced to a mortal man without his spiritual guide, the crow. Executive producer Jeff Moe said the crow, the bird in the movie, was loosely termed the hand of God and the information giver, sent from the afterlife to lead Eric Draven on his mission. And I found that very fascinating, that this wasn't just me just kind of making this stuff up thinking, or, because great movies will do that. A great painting will do that. You look at it and you can interpret it very differently. So it was fascinating for me to go back to study the making of this film and to see that this wasn't just in my head. This was purpose. A lot of this was purposely done, loosely termed the hand of God. That's what the crow is, and that's what the crow feels like to me. The bird, like it's descending from heaven, right? It's coming down from heaven, and we're going through the eyes of it, almost as if it's going into hell, through this hellish city, and taking us on this journey where we meet our main character, Eric Draven, who returns from the dead, returns from the grave about 1 year later after dying a horrendous death. It's a fascinating story, either way. Some of the stuff is kind of a stretch. Maybe most of it is a stretch. Maybe, maybe it's not relevant. Maybe people will disagree with it. And that's cool too. Not a big deal. So let me see. Eric's mission is to set the wrong things right and return. I wonder if I can make this even bigger or not. Let's play the page at 100. I'm trying to make full screen. It's not working out. Eric's mission is to set the wrong things right and return to the afterlife, where he will reunite with Shelley in heaven. His story arc should never be compared to that of Jesus Christ, but God has brought back people from the dead, and there's always a reason why. We can look at Lazarus, the young girl in the Bible, in the book of Mark, and even all the people who were raised from the dead after Jesus died on the cross for our sins, which is still another fascinating thing that I've always thought of, and never been explained. It's never really been explained. I don't know how you explain that. After Jesus dies, then all these people rise from the dead. It's in the Bible. I wish I had the verse right here next to me, and I definitely will add it, but it's one of the most fascinating verses. Like, they're zombies. What's going on? But they rise from the dead, like they're returning from Hades or returning from hell, or just walking back on the earth. And then that's it. They're just not really mentioned again. What happened to them after that? Another fascinating thing. All right. Crosses and symbols of crosses are everywhere. Blood is everywhere. The crow is everywhere. But that's to be expected, considering the title of the movie. What is not expected is the argument that The Crow is a Christian film, whether intentional or not. It may also be one of the best Christian movies ever made. I won't ask you to prove me wrong. I don't expect you to agree or disagree with the argument I will make here. I do appreciate you taking the time to consider the points I will lay out in this book, in this commentary, about a man and a woman in love a year ago. This is a powerful story based on an amazing comic book starring one of my favorite actors of all time, who just happens to be the son of one of the greatest martial artists. No, the greatest martial artist to ever have lived. There are so many layers to the story that it's hard to know where to begin. I guess we should begin where the final edited movie begins. The opening credits, a black screen, minimal music, with 2 words in all caps, Brandon Lee. When those 2 words fade from the black screen, our title appears, The Crow. Police sirens blare as we are introduced to a dark city lit up mostly by yellowish-orange fires across the vast landscape of black buildings, leading towards the aftermath of a brutal murder scene. A police officer looks out the broken circular window, his eyes focused on the pavement far below, smoking a cigarette. The year is unclear, but the date is October 30th, also known as Devil's Night. From the beginning, we are introduced to hell on earth. On the night of the devil, according to the storyline, we are looking through the eyes of the crow sent down from heaven by God on a mission to set the wrong things right. We dive with the crow down into the city of the burning buildings, covered in darkness. The brightest lights we see are those from fires set by anarchists, all part of the devil's plan to spread chaos and fear to the people living here. You keep returning to the theme of fire in this movie, says screenwriter John Shirley. Everything is very hellish. It's about bringing hell to earth in a way, because hell is where you get the final revenge, and it's no accident that Devil's Night is involved. There's a constant return to the theme of fire, fire and rain, black and red. We are all products of our environment at some point in our lives, for better or for worse. We can all try to break free from those environments, for better or for worse. But ultimately, our journey here on earth is all part of God's divine plan. It sounds simple because it is. Back to the movie. We are still seeing the city through the eyes of the crow, who is really the main character, right? After all, the movie may star Brandon Lee, who plays Eric Draven, but the title of this movie is The Crow. Now, I just want to stop there for a second, because yes, it is The Crow, but there are many times where the writer, the producer, the director, where they all refer to Brandon Lee's character, Eric Draven, as the Crow. So it can be a little confusing where you have it. And then I believe in the comic book, I don't even think there is any crow really in there, right? So who is the crow? What is the crow? So it could be you got two crows. You got Crow the bird, and then you got Eric Draven, played by Brandon Lee, who is the Crow. So take that for what it's worth. It's really confusing when you're trying to write some of this stuff and trying to make some sense out of it. But it's been really fun to just kind of read this book and to learn more about this movie, the filmmaking process too, the funding that went into it. Made for $15 million, it looks like. And look what they did with it. Just so creative and so great. And the fact that it almost didn't happen, because after Brandon Lee died, they just kind of shut everything down. And the director was kind of like, well, that's it. We're done. Not moving forward with it. It took the family, the friends, the co-stars of the movie. It took all of them to really say, we need to get this movie done, and we need to finish this for Brandon Lee. And I'm glad they did. I'm so glad they did. So glad they did. That's all I can say. All right. So the more the camera pans down to the details of the shadowy buildings below, the closer we get to the glossy wet streets of vulnerability in this death-tainted city landscape. The sky is painted hot red. The buildings that aren't engulfed in flames look like they're vacant. The terror has consumed this environment. Imagine the human inhabitants who can't escape from this crap hole. It's as if the devil painted the city black. Soft music echoes through our speakers as police dispatch audio dances with the vocals of local news anchors. None of what they're saying matters. All voices are drowned out by the rising music. The visuals show us all we need to know about the world we're descending into. This is a city in pain, trapped in darkness, terrorized by the devil, and seeking shelter under the arms of Jesus Christ, the hand of God, the Crow. Victims, aren't we all? As the flight of the crow continues, we hear the first words of the opening narrative, spoken through one of those victims. She was a product of her environment, an innocent girl named Sarah, played by actress Rochelle Davis. The soft voice of Sarah brings us into the story of a restless soul. People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it, and the soul can't rest. So where does this terrible sadness come from, if not God? Well, who controls your soul? Who made your soul? Who gave you your soul? Think about that. Then our narrator explains how what is about to happen only happens sometimes. Just sometimes, Sarah tells us. The crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right. Where does the crow get its power to bring that soul back from the dead? What exactly is going on here? You know where the power comes from. It comes from God. This is a story of redemption, a chance to set the wrong things right, and the story of a man temporarily reborn after death to complete a simple mission. He's reborn in a way in this coming back from the dead, screenwriter John Shirley said about our protagonist, Eric Drake. It's kind of a dark rebirth. That's why they have him trembling in the rain, half naked and confused, with this innocent look in his eyes. It's very much like an infant. Actor Ernie Hudson, who are you going to call, who plays Officer Albrecht, also described the movie as a rebirth. This is a movie where darkness has totally taken over. Out of death comes hope, renewal, a rebirth. Eric Draven came back to set the wrong things right. And it's not just the wrong way he and Shelley died. Eric will help others set the wrong things right in their lives. In the really real world, Jesus Christ, God in flesh, walked the earth, an earth like what we see in this movie, and was on a mission to set the wrong things right. Those wrong things began with Adam and Eve when they ate of the forbidden fruit, and sin was born. Only Jesus could defeat sin and set the wrong things right. Back to the movie. The first human character we see in the movie is Officer Albert, played by Ernie Hudson. You may remember him as the fourth original member of the Ghostbusters. Hudson is a great actor, and in both films, Ghostbusters and The Crow, he plays the straight arrow, no-nonsense good guy. Hudson brings stability to both movies with his fearless characters. In both films, he emerges as a true hero, never wavering from doing the right thing. Do the right thing. In the movie, Eric Draven helps Officer Albrecht set the wrong things right in his life. Eric helped the officer regain his focus on life, something Jesus Christ and Christians try to do each day. Actor Ernie Hudson explains that after his character watched Shelley Webster die, he was horrified by what had happened to that girl. He had gone to the hospital with her, and his life was never quite the same. So here we are at the beginning of the movie, with the crow leading us to the crime scene in a loft at the top of one of many apartment buildings in the darkening sky. The eyes of the crow take us to Police Sergeant Albrecht, staring out a broken circular window, smoking a cigarette, examining the brutal crime scene. There were two victims. The female, Shelley Webster, laid on the ground as paramedics attended her. The male, Eric Draven, was thrown through the high-rise loft window after being stabbed and shot in a crucifix position. When Eric returned from the dead and is forced to relive his murder, he jumps out of the window. But this time, instead of falling to the pavement below, Eric Draven holds on to the railing of the circular window and re-enters the loft. This is the moment Eric Draven looks at his hands, sees the cuts on both of his palms, and watches as the blood fades and the wounds heal before his eyes. This reminds me of the hands of Jesus a little bit, just a little bit. It reminds me of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ being nailed to the cross, but it also reminded me of what Thomas said to Jesus after Jesus returned from the dead and stayed with his disciples for 40 days and 40 nights. Thomas walked with Jesus, saw the miracles performed by the Messiah, and yet still did not believe he was looking at the one who had risen from the dead. Thomas wanted to see the holes in the hands of Jesus, and Jesus showed them to him. Doubting Thomas. Back to the movie. We're following Sergeant Albrecht as he searches the crime scene for clues about the fallen victims, Eric Draven and Shelley Webster. What did they do to deserve this? Nothing. Were they targets, just at the wrong place at the wrong time? The young couple was set to get married the next night on Halloween. One of the officers asked, "Who gets married on Halloween?" He may use a little more colorful language. Nobody, answers Albrecht. An EMT tells Sergeant Albrecht they need to get Shelley to a hospital as soon as possible. Albrecht gives the order to get her to the hospital. Shelley is his only hope to learn what happened, collect evidence, and pursue any leads. For some, this was just another devil's night, just another product of their environment, just another day in this God-forsaken city. But for the crow sent from heaven above, this was something more. This was the hand of God sent down to earth like lightning and thunder, raining down to remind the evil minions who is really in charge of everything that happens. Evil is not eternal. Evil does not control this world. This world is temporary. God is always in control. Test God, tempt God, and you may end up like the antagonist in this fictional story. Devil's Night. 143 fires are set ablaze that night, according to Sergeant Albrecht, and this number was down from the previous year. So you can see God is working in the hearts and minds of those participating in this annual chaotic tradition, but they are not responding to his mercy upon them. And it looks like that's kind of where I stopped this part here. I do have some other points that I want to go through for sure that I will here in a couple minutes. But so that's what I got so far. 10 pages so far. Definitely not enough for a book. I got to squeeze out at least another 20 or 30. And then I figured, well, you know, what I may also do is just kind of have some cool notes or some cool stuff about the Crow, about Brandon Lee, maybe a little bit about Bruce Lee too. So I don't know if I'll have enough for a full book, unfortunately, but we'll have something. We'll have some fun with it. It's a fun. It's all hard when you're dealing with death and stuff like that to say, oh, this is fun, but it's an very interesting way to think about this movie. Think about this. Just be open to the possibility. Maybe it is a Christian movie. Maybe it is a good Christian movie. It's not an overt. It's not out there like, hey, you know, this is something you're gonna find on PureFlix or maybe even Angel Studios, right? This is a very dark movie. It's not for kids. There are many reasons why it would not be on any Christian platform anytime soon or ever. And it may even be a head scratcher to some Christians to think, why would this guy even think that this is a Christian movie? But I believe it is. I believe there are Christian elements to it. You can interpret it that way. Let me put it like that. And then the more that I research it, I believe that actually the writers and the people involved in this movie, it was kind of made like that. It was made like that. Even the creator, James O'Barr, does believe in something, and he did have some Catholic background and some spiritual background, some relationship with God at some point too. And then his girlfriend was killed by a drunk driver in a car crash, which changed everything for him. And James O'Barr, it's a very sad story about the person who created this character, who created this world, who created the comic book. And the comic book is very, very dark. But I just got the latest version of the comic book, and I'm seeing some Christian references in there too. So there may be more that I can add. But I wanted to start with the movie and find all of the different Christian references. And I do have some more to go over, some more Christian references, in fact, to go over. But I wanted to maybe play a little bit of this. It's just a little promo reel that I just made, and hopefully I'll be adding more to it as well. But again, if you are a reader like me, I cannot put this book down. I mean, I really didn't even want to do this show today because I wanted to just keep reading this as much as I can, because spare time right now is so minimal and I got to make every moment count. But I was up last night. I've been up for the last 2 nights, just trying to read for what I could in the little time that I have and had. And I am just completely fascinated. Yeah, I'm only on page 63 here, but I am completely fascinated by this book. Really looking forward to it. This is the updated version of it too. Again, The Crow, The Life, Death, and Rebirth of a Classic Film. Reading this book also makes me think there's really nothing more for me to say on any of this. It's all right here, but I am going to have fun with it. Even if it's just a writing experience, maybe an essay, a commentary, something just throw on my blog or something like that. But I love writing, and I needed something a little bit different. I wanted to do something a little bit different right now in between other projects and other things. But I will come back here in just a few minutes. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to see if I can play this little promo stream. I still got to add some more to it. I got another book out, Shadows of Light, that I haven't even mentioned, haven't promoted. It is out there though. It is available. Technically, it is available right now. So I need to think about maybe doing a little promo work on it. Might be nice. People don't even know it's out there. So, but that's enough of my room. A simple truth. It really is this simple. Either you believe David Crowley is innocent or you believe he is guilty. If you believe David Crowley is guilty, you are wrong. If you believe David Crowley is innocent, you are right. It really is that simple. A United States Army veteran is dead. His wife and his 5-year-old daughter are dead. A thorough investigation would only conclude with authorities admitting they lacked evidence to support their accusations. If authorities were to admit the case remains unsolved, they would also have to admit that the public may still be in danger. I am not able to solve this case. My interest is in forcing authorities to admit David Crowley is innocent. The reason they refuse to talk about this case is not because they are confident of David's guilt. They lack confidence in their allegations. Their department wishes to move on, but they are only lying to themselves. They must know the simple truth, and they need to publicly admit this. Their credibility depends on it now. The unspoken truth is that David is innocent until proven guilty. Why are authorities running from this simple truth? How long do they think they can run for? You cannot run from God. You cannot run from your nightmares. And you cannot run from the facts. Why would anyone want to? What could possibly motivate someone to try? If you cannot prove David Crowley guilty, then he remains innocent. It's as simple as that. So the resistance we face is disgusting. If David was guilty, the evidence would be right in our faces. If David was guilty, resistance to our questions would not exist. If David was guilty, facts would be evident. There are no facts to prove David guilty. There are only facts which prove David innocent. Hence the resistance to getting justice for David Crowley and family. Who cares? Do the people who closed this case and decided to not speak about it ever again really care? Do the friends who accused David Crowley of being guilty days after his body was found really care? Perhaps they only care about spreading the accusations of David's guilt instead of researching the facts of this case. They don't seem to care about the facts which prove David innocent. Truth is a simple thing. Justice does not die. Facts prove David is innocent. The story of Kennedy and Trump has changed the course of history forever. August 23, 2024 will forever be known as the day we turned the corner and took back our great nation and changed the course of history and brought hope to a free world. Join me as we relive the strange relationship between Kennedy and Trump leading to their return to the White House to make America healthy and great again. I spent 2 years following the Kennedy and Trump campaigns. Long before the two men ever considered running for president, Kennedy sued Trump and stopped him from building a golf course near the Hudson River. After Trump won the presidency in 2016, he recruited Kennedy to look into vaccine safety issues. Kennedy was forced out the door after clashing with a man by the name of Anthony Fauci. But the assassination attempt on President Trump's life brought Kennedy and Trump closer than ever. From rivals to collaborators, from foes to friends, this is a story of Kennedy and Trump. You can download the book for free right now by going to kennedyandtrump.com. That's kennedyandtrump.com. My name is Greg Fernandez Jr. God bless you all. The Gray Stage by Greg Fernandez Jr., Mind by Soul Productions, 2020. United States Army veteran and Minnesota filmmaker David Crowley was accused of murdering his wife and daughter before taking his own life in December of 2014. The Apple Valley Police Department suspects the bodies were inside the Minnesota home for 3 weeks after they were found by neighbors on January 17, 2015. Within 24 hours of finding the bodies, authorities assumed this was a double murder-suicide. The culprit was deceased, and the public was not in any danger. On the day the bodies were found, authorities did not see a bullet hole in the living room ceiling or a bullet in the living room carpet. These were two of the most important items in this case, as they were tied to David Crowley and his daughter. It was only after investigators were told of their existence that they returned to the crime scene on 2 separate occasions and retrieved the 2 spent rounds. What did authorities find in the Crowley house that proved David Crowley murdered his wife and daughter and then killed himself? Without a motive, and with the absence of guilt, the case was closed with the status of exceptionally clear. If David is truly guilty of this crime, then authorities should be forced to prove their theory. The Gray Stage exists solely because of the official conclusion as stated on page 92 of the Apple Valley Police Reports PDF. With the conclusion of the review of digital devices, Detective Brian Bone reported on October 7, 2015, there is no other information available for further investigation. Throughout this investigation, the AVPD has not discovered any information or evidence that shows anybody but David Crowley is the perpetrator of these crimes, including the killing of his wife, child, and himself. This book, The Gray Stage, is a direct response to the allegations against David Crowley. Due to the lack of evidence against David, I felt it necessary to write this book. One of the reasons I decided to write The Gray Stage was to help convince the Apple Valley Police Department to reopen case number 1500303. Either the Apple Valley Police Department should be forced to prove David Crowley guilty, or they should admit the case is unsolved. Because the official investigation failed to prove David Crowley guilty, I can only assume he is not. What other conclusion could I possibly reach under the current circumstances? Within 24 hours of finding the bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley, the Apple Valley Police Department were treating the incident as a double murder-suicide. Looks like I did maybe a couple different takes on that. Okay, so going back to this is the newest one, The Crow, James O'Barr Special Edition. I think you will like this too. Got this on Amazon. This is, I don't know, hope I can show some of this, but they got a few church scenes in there too. So yes, there will be something to take away from this. I remember reading this when this first came out, and according to James O'Barr, this is like the special edition, I guess you would say. So, yeah, it gives a little in memory to Brandon Lee inside there as well. I am very much looking forward to rereading this. It's been a long time since I've read this. So, I was a big comic book fan, big comic book reader. So definitely when I heard about, I saw the movie first. I had no idea there was a comic book or anything. I didn't know anything about it. I went to see The Crow because it had Brandon Lee in it. That was it. And like I said, the more that I'm learning about all of this, the more that I realize how little I know. This is the movie book. It's pretty much kind of like I love this back. Everybody, you know this image. It's kind of like a When I first got it, I thought it was just pictures, just all pictures, but it's actually not. There's actually a lot of writing in here too, and a lot of great background stuff. Even some of the scenes that were cut out. And check out this dude. This is the Skull Cowboy that was cut out. I mean, look at that guy. And that sucks. You may recognize that actor in there too. Michael Berryman, I think is his name. Yeah, Michael Berryman. So you may recognize him from some other movies, Road Warrior, I believe. But that character was an interesting one that was cut out of this film. And I do have the script too. So with all that combined, maybe I can have enough for a tiny, small little book, at least something, something to show for all of this. But if not, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open this, going to share this other page so that I can show. I think I have to stop screen. All right. And just kind of go through some of these points that I still have that I haven't covered yet. So what you'll note is that the stuff that you see here in yellow is the stuff that I've already included in what I've already read. So the yellow stuff is already stuff that has been included into the 10 pages. And so I figured, well, let me just kind of read through some of the stuff that wasn't included in there. Some of the stuff that I just haven't gotten to yet, but I do plan on getting to some interesting stuff. You may find it interesting. And again, it's all kind of covering some of the reasons why The Crow is a Christian, why all the Christian themes in it. Does it make it a Christian movie? I don't know. I believe it is. For me, as a Christian, it's become one of the greatest Christian movies of my lifetime. This movie has helped me in many, many ways. Right? It helps me with what to do, what not to do, but it gives me a different perspective. But it also takes me back to that moment in my life when I was, I couldn't, maybe 16 or 17, a struggling Christian. I was really struggling with it. And this movie was kind of like how I felt about my life, just kind of dead on the inside. And this really helped bring me out of it and show me that there is hope and there is another path, there is another journey. And I need to get right with God. I need to get back with God. That's what I got from it. And watching back with this movie, subliminal messages probably also in this movie helped me with that. And so what I'm talking about here on some level is the subliminal messages from a Christian hiding it, putting it into this awesome movie called The Crow. Again, whether right or wrong, that's the way that I see it. Now, there were some things that did not even make this list because they were just, I even felt they were kind of a stretch. Everything, all of these points I'm making could be a big, big stretch. But I think it's fascinating to think about it. And I hope you will keep an open mind to it. Let's talk about Mr. Gideon, the pawn shop owner. Mr. Gideon. Think of Gideon's Bible. The Bible is the messenger of God. In The Crow, Gideon is recruited by Eric Draven as a messenger of his own. Eric gives Gideon a clear message, sending a warning to the bad guys. The Bible has a clear warning for the bad guys in this world. You're going to hell. And so Mr. Gideon is given, Eric Draven gives Mr. Gideon the message. Tell them, Eric Draven sends his regards. Death is coming for them tonight. He's like the Grim Reaper here. So many good references in this Gideon and Eric Draven scene. Quote the Raven, Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, there's just some interesting stuff in there. Some of it I took out because it was kind of a stretch. So I just kind of wanted to stick to the main points that I really felt there's some Christian elements in here. Let's put it like that. Maybe I need to rename the book. Why are there Christian elements in The Crow? I don't know. All right, Gideon and the wedding rings. This is another good one. Gideon and the wedding rings. In the movie and the original comic book source material, Mr. Gideon, who is not paying attention to our protagonist's mission in the story, is a pawn shop owner who thinks Eric Draven is just another dust-head creature of the night who doesn't know his store is closed for the night. I need to take out the night. You never want the same word in the same sentence. This scene is pivotal because this scene is pivotal to the storyline on paper and in front of the camera for many reasons. But one that stands out to me is the importance of a wedding ring, a man and a woman in love. The wedding rings are a symbol of marriage, sacred between a man and a woman, in the remembrance, in the remembrance of the first love between Adam and Eve. In the movie, the wedding rings in Gideon's pawn shop represent a life he helped destroy, according to our protagonist. Eric Draven was searching for a gold engagement ring when he began gently tapping at Mr. Gideon's front door. Brandon Lee's character knew the pawn shop was closed when he knocked 3 times on the glass door to get Gideon's attention, just as Jesus Christ knocks on the door of our hearts. Eric Draven knocked on the front door of a sinner who needed help. Mr. Gideon needed someone to set the wrong things right in his life, but he wasn't paying attention. Suddenly, I heard a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. Eric Draven recites to Mr. Gideon. Gideon still isn't paying attention. You heard me rapping, right? Draven asked Gideon. Gideon still doesn't understand what's right in front of his face. He accuses Draven of trespassing and focuses on the monetary issue he faces. Gideon tells Eric Draven he owes him a new door. Gideon is oblivious to what is happening in his life. As a Christian, I can relate. There are times where I felt like God was knocking at my chamber door and I didn't answer. There's a lot of assumed allegory and opinions here on my part, but from my point of view, when Eric Draven throws the rings in Gideon's face and scolds him for profiting off the lives of the innocent, Gideon's response is to beg for his life, presumably the only thing he holds sacred to his existence. Selfish survival. Eric Draven holds a shotgun in his hand and tells Mr. Gideon, hold still. Be still, is what God tells us, right? So for some reason, I wanted to throw in a reference here of Jesus tipping over the money changer tables, because it kind of feels like this same thing, like this pawn shop is kind of like the money changer table. I don't know. Again, it's all kind of open to interpretation. And this is another thing. Even if I'm wrong about all of this stuff, or if I'm the only one who thinks that, oh, this is what makes it such a great Christian movie. The movie is so great that it's so open to interpretation that it allows me to interpret it this way and to make some points. So I don't know. I'm so fascinated by movies, and I love the fact that this movie, there's so many interpretations. It's aged like fine wine. I truly believe the older this movie gets, the more people that watch it and compare it to the sequels that came after it. Hopefully you don't. I wouldn't waste my time. But hopefully you gain a clear respect for this movie and how great of a movie this is. Whether you believe it's, Christian movie or not, a Christian theme or anything to do with that, even if you just count all of that, to recognize that it is just a great film, a beautiful story. And for being so dark, and I kept wanting, because this was back in the VHS days, so I would always try to raise the brightness on my TV because I wanted to see everything closer. I didn't realize, no, they're purposely doing this. It's supposed to be dark. Everything is supposed to be dark the way it is. So it's done on purpose. All right. Let's finish up here. So let's see. Selfish survival. Eric Draven holds a shotgun in his hand and tells him to hold still. Again, be still. That's what Jesus tells us. Be still. Mr. Gideon came face to face with death, and all he could do was beg for his life. Don't kill me, Gideon pleaded. And that's it. You can, if you fear death, you're just going to beg and just be a coward. But if you believe in God, if you believe in Jesus, you have no reason to fear death. Doesn't mean you're not going to be scared. But you will know that he is with you, that he is Lord, and that he has already forgiven you, and he won't kill you. He will save you if you believe in Christ. Moving on. Eric is buried in a grave on church grounds. His last scene is the return to the same grave on the church grounds. The cross on the grave matches the cross on the top of the church. So again, some of these things may not make it in, but I wanted to jot down every little point, and I didn't even make it through the whole movie yet. Just jotting down these points. The cat's name is Gabriel. Think of Archangel Gabriel from the Bible, who tells about the birth of John the Baptist. That's in Luke 1:19 through 31, and appears before the prophet Daniel, Daniel 8:15 to 9:21, and chapter 10. After returning from death, Eric tries to not reveal himself to those he knew while alive. He stays on the rooftops. That lasts about 36 minutes into the film, if you discount Eric's encounter with Officer Albert. Officer Albert technically knew the deceased Eric Draven, but never really had any contact with Eric Draven while he was alive. So the distinction between that and between Officer Albert's relationship with Shelley is a little bit different. So anyway, I love going through this just so I can kind of work this out. Sometimes when I hear it and I read it out loud, it lets me know what I like, what I don't like, and really helps me fine tune all of this stuff. So let's see what else. After returning, so the returning from death, and of course that is the complete opposite. And well, it's really not. It kind of is, because when Jesus returned from death, he didn't return to the whole world. Hey, I'm here. He went with his disciples. He went back to them, but it's still kind of secret. Still kind of kept it secret there too, or tried to, right? So that is another thing to also think about too. The similarities, little similarities, I believe there. Comes back from the dead and doesn't make it a big deal. He's not reliving. Like, hey, I'm back. How are you, everybody? No, that's not what Jesus did, and that's not what Eric Draven did too. So found that there's a similarity there. Come on, work with me here. The fun boy scene. Now, this is a pivotal scene. This is a great scene. According to the producer, Jeff Most, we added the ability. I hate when I scroll down on the PDFs. It just jumps to the next page. I can't even go down all the way. Okay. According to producer Jeff Most, we added the ability to have the crow evacuate the morphine. And that was something that we felt was another one of those powers that an angel would have. Jeff Most referenced Clarence, the angel from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We always saw him as somebody whose power would virtually just arrive to him as a thought that he might want to have. Something he would want to do. And he wanted to cleanse Darla's body of the morphine. Eric took away her addiction and put the wrong things right in Darla and Sarah's life. This was a very powerful scene. I'm sure if you remember any scene from The Crow, this may be the one where he takes the morphine out of Darla's body. And the symbol for that, morphine is bad for you. There are some very positive symbols inside here too. They didn't want to glorify the drugs in this movie. They wanted all of that to seem like this is bad. Doing the drugs that they were doing in this movie, all the things that they were doing, this is bad. And that's another thing that makes this a great Christian movie. Because we see the human sacrifice in the Bible. We see Baal. We see Moloch. We see what they did is sacrificing babies, sacrificing children, sacrificing humans. We see all of this in the Bible, and the Bible doesn't glorify it. This movie does not, in my opinion, The Crow does not glorify violence, killing, murder, and drug use. I think it's the other way. It actually says if you do that, you may end up like some of these guys here. Right? Okay. Stretching it out a bit. The quote about mother being the name for God is not in the Bible, but it's noted God is mentioned and morphine is bad. Mother is a name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. Do you understand? Morphine is bad for you. Your daughter is out there on the streets waiting for you. Oh, what a powerful uh, dialogue. I don't know if that was John Shirley who wrote that or if that was a guy who came on after, but that is just some powerful wording. And even though it's not directly from the Bible, you know what he's talking about. Talking about God, which is always good. And there's even a Jesus Christ reference in here, which is pretty good, I thought. Okay, so Eric Draven's cleansing of Darla is similar to the cleansing of Mary Magdalene by Jesus Christ. Both Darla and Mary are prostitutes. Both are saved from certain death at the hands of evil people. Both lived in a world without hope until they found their purposes. Darla found the strength to become a mother. Mary found God in flesh, Jesus Christ. I am very uncomfortable comparing anyone to Jesus Christ, as there is no comparison. This is just an observation to prove my point that The Crow could be seen as a great Christian movie. So that looks like I didn't put in the big, some of the big ones. Yeah, and that's it. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And that's what 1010 did. 1010 was a man who was one of the bad guys, and that's exactly what happened. He lived by the sword, and he died by the sword, or knives. You could put it knives, really. he wanted the knife, but the joke in the Darla scene is pretty good with Fun Boy, where the Crow, Brandon Lee, Eric Draven, that character makes the he gets shot, and he shows Fun Boy the hole in his hand, and then Fun Boy is like, Jesus Christ, like he's saying like, whoa, what is going on here? And then Eric Draven says, Jesus Christ, stop me if you've heard this one. Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. He hands the innkeeper 3 nails and he asks, can you put me up for the night? It seems like, Christian, we should be offended by this, but I'm not offended by it. I found it funny. I found it a good reference in it. I don't know. For some reason, I'm not offended by it. Sorry. All right, I do got a few more here, but that may be a good place to kind of stop this if you've heard this one. Okay, maybe a few more. Let's see. The main antagonist, Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott, is a good representation of pure evil, who felt disorder, chaos, and anarchy were fun. He was never satisfied with all the evil he helped create in the city. Instead, he always wanted more from his minions. He wanted his followers to set a fire so big that the gods would notice them again. The actor is so good, you almost root for him a little in the first scene. He tears up. He tears up a little as he holds a snow globe in his right hand. His dad gave him the globe as a gift on his 5th birthday. Inside the globe is a snowy graveyard with 3 big crosses sticking out of the ground. A dead tree stretches out across the glass structure, hovering over the cemetery, stands tall above the grave. Top Dollar recites the words his father spoke to him on that day. Childhood's over, and the moment you know it, you're going to die. But that wasn't all Top Dollar's daddy told him. At the end of the movie, Top Dollar lures Eric Draven into a fight, which turns a little bit into a wrestling match towards the end. It even looks like Top Dollar is enjoying the scuffle as he laughs in the face of Draven. After stabbing Eric in the back, Top Dollar made a comment about Eric Draven being the devil he needed to wrestle with. My daddy used to say, every man's got a devil, and you can't rest until you find him. Now, the opposite happened in the Bible when Jacob wrestled an angel in Genesis 32, 22 through 31. In this case, Jacob and the angel were both good, whereas Top Dollar and the devil he needed to wrestle with were both bad, but probably thought they were both right. The devil was once an angel named Lucifer. The devil loves to twist what is good and make it seem bad. The devil tried to convince the world that Jesus was the devil. Top Dollar said he was going to miss Eric Draven and said he had a lot of spirit. A lot of spirit. Like Draven died in the beginning of the movie, Top Dollar is thrown off the side of a building, in this case, a church, and lands in the spiky tips of a gargoyle. His blood oozes out of the gargoyle's mouth like a human sacrifice before the altar of some false god. A fitting ending. Gargoyles were used to ward off demons. In this case, the death of the gargoyle was used. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. The gargoyle was used to shed the blood of the antagonist. See, this is all just notes here, so obviously there's a lot of room for improvement. David Patrick Kelly's version of T-Bird is inspired by John Milton's Paradise Lost, where Satan and his fallen angels rebel against God. Here we go. More Christ references. All T-Bird can do is pray to his false god Satan and recite the pitiful feelings of the devil. Abashed, the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. T-Bird was confronted by goodness in the form of Eric Draven, who came back to life to set the wrong things right. It was time for T-Bird to join his hero, the devil, in hell. How awful goodness must feel. How awful goodness must feel to an evil soul. David Patrick Kelly said his character didn't understand that Eric Draven was an avenging angel. An avenging angel. So there we have it. Once again, going back to the angel, an avenging angel. That's what they see Eric Draven. It's all spiritual references. All things you'll find in the Bible, all related to Christianity. Just throwing it out there. And it mentions Jesus Christ in there. Sometimes using the Lord's name in vain. Two of the bad guys use the Lord's name in vain, but then Eric Draven has his own spin on it, which I still think is funny. It's a funny joke. I don't know. I found it funny. All right. When T-Bird is about to die, he finally understands what real power is and where it comes from. He was deceived by the devil. He was fooled into thinking once you die, there is no coming back. His character quoted Paradise Lost as he committed the ultimate sins in the beginning of the film with what he does to Shelley Webster. He should have read the Bible instead. As his car blew up and he perished in the fire, perhaps he finally understood how awful evil was. Now, here's one that I just found in the book that I'm reading, which again is The Crow, The Life, Death, and Rebirth of a Classic Film by Bridget Bass. She mentions this too. So I'm not copying her because I had already written this before, but she mentions the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the four bad guys. So it's kind of like the opposite, where the four horsemen of the apocalypse are with God, right? But now here you have, I don't know. I need to learn more about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, is what it sounds like. But one could look at T-Bird, Fun Boy, Skank, and Tintin and see them as the complete opposite. The four stooges of Top Dollar. And then, of course, the final thing I have here today is he who lives by the sword dies by the sword or knife, like Tintin. Matthew 26:52. And that's really all that I have so far regarding all of this. It's been fun going back and reliving some of the early days of The Crow, and then also learning more. And the research is the part that I really love. And you can tell that Bridget Base, she loves to research. She's a journalist. She absolutely loves doing this stuff, and it shows in this book so much, so much. It is on Amazon. Get the paperback because the hardcover is the version that was released in 2000. This version is the updated version, which I think was just released in 2024. It's newer. Yeah, 2024. So this is still, it's only about a year old. And I can't wait to continue to read this. I'm going to get back to reading this. God bless you all. Thank you for joining me here. Until next time, Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I.